Godox just released a new 60-watt full-color LED light called the MS60R and a collapsible lightweight adapter called the DL5 Lite, which simulates the parallel beams of real sunlight. Its Fresnel lens creates a 5-degree spread and boosts the output up to 50 times. These lights are really small and portable, which makes them easy to pack and transport around town. But I wanted to find out if they're powerful enough to simulate sunlight on a real shoot. So in this video, we're going to take out 2 of these lights and test them out in the types of situations where I would most likely use them. So let's see if the MS60R and the DL5 Lite are the answer for creating sunlight on the go. This video is not sponsored. For this shot, we're at this playground and it's kind of a cloudy day and we want to turn it into a sunny day.
I'll be exercising with the upper body warm-up exercise.
So this is our first light that we set up just directly behind Naz, and it's just going to give Naz a little bit of an edge on the back of his head. And then we have this light over here, which is acting as our key light.
This is the Godox app and I can control both lights with this. So I'm going to turn on the backlight right there and then turn on the key light. So now both lights are on. I can go in and control the CCT of each light. I can control the tint and I can switch modes and go to HSI, RGB, color filter, FX. Now I'm rolling my camera and we're seeing the full lighting effect. This is our sunny day lighting. I'm going to turn off the key light and now I'm going to turn off the backlight, and this is how it looks with no lighting. Because it's projecting the light so specifically, you can isolate just one subject without lighting up the entire environment. For instance, if I pull back, you'll see that there's very little light spilling elsewhere on the scene. And also, I have more room to move the camera around because the light has a greater throw. I usually like to have a lot of camera movement in my shots. And when you're using lights that are too close to your subject, camera movement becomes restricted because you don't want to show the lights. 3, 2, 1, work out, Naz. I'm pushing in. There you go. Give it that intensity. That's right, Rocky montage. And pulling back out. 3, 2, 1, stop. Someday, if Naz keeps it up, he's gonna end up looking like this guy. So we have these special light stands where you can remove the central column and use that separately as a boom.
And with this Fresnel cone attachment here, the light beam is actually quite narrow. As you can see here, if I move it away and if I move it in, you can actually see the circular spot forming on Naz's shirt if you look really closely. So there's only a certain position where we can actually emulate natural sunlight.
So it's like working with a flashlight. You aim it directly on your subject, keep the subject within that circle, and you get beautiful light. But you have to frame your shot very carefully. So that's ultimately the compromise of working with a smaller fixture like this. You can get a really bright, powerful beam, but it will be in a really narrow spot. Next challenge, we're going to try to do a follow fill. So a follow fill is where the light moves with the subject. So we're going to have Naz do a little walking, and Kevin will try to keep up with him by walking alongside with the light.
So that was really difficult. There was actually no way for me to keep the light stable and on Naz's face because of how narrow the spot actually is.
Another factor is that we're shooting in the middle of the day, which means that this light has to compete with full daylight. Even moving back a couple extra meters will cause so much light fall off that you won't really get much on the subject. If we were shooting later in the afternoon or at nighttime, then we could move the light further back and then we would have a wider beam to work with. Next up, we're gonna do a little scene at the Latte Hottest, which is a really cool cafe in Hong Kong if you like latte art. Look at this is Kevin. Pretty good likeness.
Now we're lighting up the scene with the spotlight to the window.
So the light is about maybe 5 meters away outside the window, and it's shining in and giving us this pattern on the wall. If this was real sunlight, the beams of light would be perfectly parallel, which means there would be no spread happening in the shadow. But you can see here there is actually a little bit of spread because it's a 5-degree beam. So it's not perfectly parallel, but it's pretty close. Now I've got both lights on stands outside of this window, and they're shining in and casting a wider overall beam. So basically I set up the two lights so that they're not overlapping their beams. That way we don't get a double shadow. We just have a single shadow on the wall here. So now I've used the app and cooled down the color temperature of both lights to 5800K. So now they basically match the light from outside. And actually that looks a lot more real to me. This is pretty realistic sunlight. For the next shot, we're gonna be shooting these lights into the kitchen of the coffee shop, which means they need to be at a higher angle. They are both way up there, and they're shining all the way into the kitchen to give us morning light. Can you hold it?
Yeah, I can hold it.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right, let's see how this looks. So this is the backlight that we're getting on the steam because of the lights that I added. Now check this out. I'm gonna turn the Godox lights off so we get no backlight and the steam doesn't stand out at all in the frame. With the light on, you get this beautiful backlight. While we're taking a little break in this coffee shop, I am going to talk to you about how to charge the MS60R. So the first option is to just plug it in via Type-C cable, like I did there. You can turn it back on while it's charging. The second option is you can detach the battery with a little switch like that, and now the battery can plug into Type-C and charge separately. So if you want to use multiple batteries, you just attach another battery here and you can keep one charging in the background. There's one more way to power the light, and that is with USB-C with no battery attached at all. So you see the battery slot is empty, and then I'm just gonna plug in my Type-C cable and use this power bank. This is a 130 watt power bank to power the light. And boom, we've got light. And depending on the wattage output of your power bank, you can get up to full power from this light. Okay, now the sun's going down and we're at the pier and it's getting darker outside, which means that we will get more output from the lights relative to the ambience. And what I'm going to try for here, thanks Naz, I want to try to simulate some sunset light because it's actually a cloudy sunset today. So right now the light is set all the way to the coldest color temperature, 10,000 K. Naz is actually shining it on my face right now. That's what you're seeing here. And in post, what I can do is adjust the overall color temperature of the shot and take this cold ambience and try to make it look more like a warm sunset. So I'm using a 75mm lens on my camera. White balance is at 8600K. I'm just trying to warm up the ambience, and then I'm gonna warm it up even more in post. And I'm gonna do a sort of orbital gimbal move. Naz is holding the boom, which has this light set to the color red. So we're simulating the light from the Ferris wheel with our red backlight, which will then cast a red light on Kevin. Now in reality, we are so far away from that Ferris wheel that we would never get light on Kevin from the wheel. But in movie land, you can sort of make it look like the wheel is casting light this far if you use a backlight of a similar color. For the key light on Kevin, I'm going to use this collapsible globe attachment. So you just expand it like that, and then you can attach it and it locks in place. So this gives a much softer key. Next up, we're going to try creating a searchlight effect. So the DL5 is set to 9800K, very cold color temperature, and we're going to shine it down from this balcony so that very hot spot of light will be shining down on the sidewalk below us. And Kevin's going to walk around and we're going to try to track him with the searchlight and see how that looks. Now I'm gonna get a different perspective where I'm at ground level with Kevin while Naz shines the spotlight down, and we're gonna see how that looks. All right, we're wrapping everything up here. Thank you so much for watching. I want to thank Kevin and Naz for coming out and putting their Instagrams here in case you want to see more from them. If you want to know more about the lights, there will be a link in the description of the video. Otherwise, please click like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.